Hi, this is Tutor P, and this is lesson 612. The title of today's lesson is the difference between antique, vintage, and retro. Okay, somebody wants a screenshot, do it right now. Let's get right to it. All of these items refer to something old that has value for its quality, collectability, or classic nature. Okay, let's continue. If one is strict about the differences, antiques are items that are 100 years old or older. According to many antique appraisers, and these antique appraisers are often the ones that, are more strict about these exact age limits. Appraisers, vintage is something that is 40 years old or older, but less than 100 years, because of course 100 would make it an antique. Retro is something that is 20 years or older, but usually not over 40 years old. Okay, let's continue. One problem is that dealers at flea markets or at special fairs that sell a lot of these old items tend to use the words loosely and blur the lines between these items. And this is why I think there's a lot of confusion, even in the Western world. When people ask, they tend to overuse antique. They tend to call most things antiques. But anyway, this is the way we may hear it used. And this is why there's confusion about it, even among people that want to buy something. They'll ask the vendor, and they call most things antiques. So this is where the confusion comes in. Let's continue. Now, we tend to use the term antiques for things like furniture, artwork, etc., especially very old furniture. I mean, could you have some that's vintage? I guess so. But we tend to use the word antique in this area. All right, he has bought many antique pieces of furniture that he displays in his house. So this would be a typical way you may hear it. All right, now vintage is often used for old classic clothes, vehicles, wine, etc. Yeah, there's a lot of shops that sell these old designs from like the 1950s, 60s, 70s, where they've gone out of production, but people still like these clothes, assuming they're still in good condition and good enough to sell, even though they are used clothes that sell for very expensive prices. Vehicles, so there's not that many vehicles still existing that are more than 100 years old. Remember, the first vehicles were in the early 1900s. So, you got to get past even 1920. I don't know if there really are any right now. We probably can find vehicles maybe from the 40s, the 50s, the 60s, and 70s, and they would still be in the vintage category. So this is why vintage would often be used for like old cars like this. Okay, wine, of course, the origin of the word vintage actually is connected to wine. The vintage is each individual year and place where something is grown. So we definitely use this for old wine too. All right, let's continue. So here we have an example. That store sells vintage clothing of classic designs that had gone out of production. Okay. All right, the second one, he is a collector of vintage wine. Sure, there are people out there who are like that. Number 3, she was left some vintage jewelry from her grandmother when she died. So maybe the grandmother left it in her will or just wanted her to have it. So we could say that, maybe, again, it was her grandmother, so it's probably not over 100 years old because it was the grandmother's. But, still, it's very, very old, maybe classic looking. All right, let's continue. Number 4, he likes to find and collect some retro items, such as old toys, records, or video games from his childhood. Yeah, maybe. So again, he's probably at least middle age or older, and he likes to find stuff that he could still, find that he remembers when he was a kid, maybe just for his personal use. All right, and the last one here, that auction house auctioned off some antique paintings, So they were more likely to sell ones that are really, really old that would have more value. Anyway, I hope you get a better feel now of when you should use one and when you should use the other. But realize that, again, a lot of sellers of these old items, sometimes, like I say, sometimes they blur the lines, and that's where usually the problem comes in. Anyway, I hope you got it. I hope it was clear. I hope it was informative. Thank you for your time. Bye-bye.